Hi, and welcome to EQ Voice, where we know that some things are better left unsaid. Unfortunately, we have no idea what those things are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of EQ Voice. I'm MacHammer, and I'm here again with my co-host, Dexar.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back.
And we'd like to thank everyone that sent out feedback on our first episode, and want to let you all know that we'll keep trying to improve.
You know, I like to think of this as our Wrath of Khan episode, if I can make a little Star Trek analogy. Most people would agree that the second Star Trek movie was by far the best one. And the people that don't, well, they're just wrong. Anyway, even though Wrath of Khan was a great movie, I think it owes at least some of its success to following the train wreck that was Star Trek the Motion Picture. Anyway, that's the reason why I sabotaged our first episode.
And invited me as co-host.
Exactly. You see, the needs of the many, our future podcasts, outweigh the needs of the few, our first one.
All right. You realize you're cut off. No more Star Trek analogies and no Shadow impressions. And now we come to the time of our podcast where we answer questions and maybe comment on opinions from some of our viewers. I Love My Bandwidth posted that he'd like to hear more from MacHammer. And thanks. While my wife may not agree with you, I appreciate it. He also did comment that he realized I'm a new player. In our last podcast, there were certain areas where I wasn't commenting a lot. He didn't hear from me a lot, and that is true. There were some new things that in the game that I just do not have any opinions on because I don't have the experience with some of the new content to make those comments. That will change here in the near future. He also liked our ideas of having guests on the show. He did mention Brad McQuaid, and as Dex had reposted in the comment section under his, we'd love to have Brad or other developers on, but originally that wasn't our, and we would never shoot down that idea, by the way. But our original idea was to have on other players or post videos from other players commenting about maybe their opinions and views in the game, because we think that's important.
Right. It's good to get good to get other opinions out there, things that we can actually comment on. For instance, I've never played a Berserker before. It would be comical for me to try to speak with any kind of authority on how to play one, since I have no experience. So, you know, if someone out there has played a Berserker or a Rogue extensively or a Monk extensively, neither one of us has really played one of those too far in. Max played a couple of those for a little bit, but nothing substantial. And it'd be great to hear about that. As far as Mac not talking much, this is not a normal thing. He is getting back into the game, and he has a voice, and he will use it definitely. He is a little hamstrung being grouped with somebody here who unfortunately talks way too much.
We also appreciated all the ideas for topics for future shows, and we're going to use some of those in future podcasts. There we go. Then we had Benedin. He commented that he did have a hard time finding us on YouTube, our thread on YouTube. We apologize for that. When we first put out the information about the YouTube channel, if you look for EQ Voice, you could not find us on the first page. You had to really, really search for us. Fortunately, if you looked under EQ Call of the Forsaken, we were right there on the first page. But now that we have been out there for a little bit, if you look under EQ Voice under YouTube, you'll find our channel right away. We're on the first page. Thank goodness. But to make it easier to locate us and to ensure you don't miss any future podcasts, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see that. You're guaranteed to see everything that way, and helps us to know too that maybe you don't completely hate what we're putting out here. We'd like to think that we're putting something out there of value. So let us know. And if the value isn't there, if the quality isn't quite there, let us know that too. I mean, don't be too harsh. We're still learning the ropes here and everything, but we're not completely thin-skinned. We can handle it. If we completely suck, tell us that too.
And the only way we can improve is if you give us suggestions. So we like constructive criticism. We also had Kesty Silverclaw. He commented that a merc filling a hole so that a group can function without a key class is a wonderful thing. However, players choosing a merc over other players is a bad idea, or a bad game idea.
And I completely agree with that. Let's remember that they were put into the game for that purpose, to fill those key roles. There were a lot of times that there weren't enough healers or tanks, and I think it was done for DPS more than anything else. A bunch of DPS would want to play certain content, and they wouldn't have key roles to where they'd be able to do it, at least not in the way it was intended to be played. And so it was a great addition, but it should never be really a situation where you choose a merc over a warm body, I mean, in my opinion. Now, granted, there are times when, we see that not all warm bodies are created equally. We've all been grouped with people that we wish we could replace with a merc. And
we also... in the past, when I used to play, one of the reasons I left the game originally was I couldn't find a group, especially when I would get off work later in the evening. In my time zone, I'd sit for hours as a cleric looking for a group. So I'd end up with the solo class doing something else. The mercs give you the ability to function solo if you have to. So I do appreciate that. Or if you're in a group and, as Dex said, trying to fill in a needed or key role, that is available. Absolutely. But anyways, we appreciate all of your comments. That's all we have this week. We hope to hear more from you here in future broadcasts. We'll try to answer your questions and fine-tune anything if you have any suggestions that we can use. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And also, just to reiterate, if you have a Fraps video or something you've recorded in game, or if you record yourself, much like how we are in here, you can send it in to us, and I can edit it into a segment if you'd like it included. And we'd be happy to do so. Always grateful to get some content from someone else. Send it on out.
Up next, Dex is going to whine and complain about some insignificant issue that only seems to bother him.
Thanks, Mac. Since going free to play, SOE started a campaign with the express goal of attracting new players and bringing back old veteran players from years past. I think most of us really like the idea of bringing back some of our old friends and even attracting some new ones. However, I think the implementation of this could be much better. If SOE were to survey its veteran player base, say those of us with accounts over 10 years old, I think they would discover a few things that would surprise them. I don't want to pretend to speak for all veteran players, but a few things seem obvious. In every game there are features that we like and those that we don't like. If the likes outweigh the dislikes by enough of a margin, we play the game. It all boils down to what's most important to you. So, what is it that attracts us to EverQuest? What makes us play? And what makes us stop playing and move on to something else? While it's true asking 10 people these questions could easily result in 10 completely different answers, asking the opposite questions could be very informative. If you like everything about games like World of Warcraft and Rift, it's safe to assume that you won't like EverQuest very much. You'll be turned off by its clunky interface and outdated graphics. You may find it impossible to even locate quest givers since they lack the bright yellow exclamation points over their heads. But mostly you won't like it because it's hard. Okay, I can already hear some of you screaming at me. You think this is hard, this game is easy now, I remember when it was hard. Hey look, I'm with you. As a young barbarian, I remember living in Hallis and having to walk to Freeport Elementary School in the snow, uphill, on dial-up both directions. But seriously, it's all relative. Compared to EQ in 1999, EQ of 2013 is beyond easy. Compared to WoW, EQ 2013 is soul-crushingly hard. This is why we play EQ. And this is why we don't play the other games that spoon-feed you everything in a scripted movie disguised to look like a game, all the while directing your every move and choice. SOE's answer to bring in new players and to attract old players back is, in my opinion, somewhat flawed. They look at the level cap and the AA count as an obstacle that must be circumvented. Why? constantly accelerating the rate in which we get AAs, auto-granting entire AA lines, and dramatically dumbing down the first 70 to 80 levels of the games with mercs is not the answer. MMOs have become too much about the destination and not enough about the journey. When I started playing EQ, I never once thought to myself, I can't wait to hit level 50 so I can start having fun. AA points didn't exist, and one of the first things I did when I hit 50 was start playing a new alt. I know the game is much different now, but I think it's a shame that players hire a tank merc, plow through level 1 through 70 in a few days, or worse yet, get PL'd to 90 in less time than that. I'm not against power leveling. In fact, I've done quite a bit of it myself. However, if you've never played the game before, why are you skipping years of content, including EQ's best expansions, only to find yourself at max level, bored to death, with no idea how to play your class? Too often, max level in a week equals on to the next game within a month. There are some very good reasons why people skip content. Let's cover a few of them. Number 1, Defiant Gear. Depending on your perspective, Defiant Gear was either the greatest thing since sliced bread or the end of the world as we know it. It rendered the vast majority of gear from several expansions pointless. This is not a small thing. It's hard to get motivated to do a long quest if the reward is a joke compared to the piece of Defiant Gear you just bought in the bazaar for 100 plat. Number 2, lack of low-level groups. This one's a nice little catch-22. There are no groups at your level, so you power level, which results in no groups at your level. Number 3, life begins at 100. Some people just feel like the game is only worth playing at max level. Now, while that third reason that I just listed is kind of hard to overcome, I firmly believe that there should be a way around the other two. There are a couple of ways to neutralize the negative effect that Defiant Gear has on itemization from level 1 to 75, and also the lack of low-level groups. One way might be new player servers. A new standard rule server could be made available to new players only, in much the same way that Vox was. No transfers allowed to the server, a level cap of 75 with all expansions up to and including the Buried Sea unlocked. No Defiant Gear whatsoever. Characters created on the server can claim an in-game item that isn't available any other way. This item should be desirable without being overpowered, a fun convenience item. At level 75, each character gets a free transfer to the non-progression server of their choice. It's important to encourage level 75 players to transfer and not to create a top-heavy server. Therefore, when the player transfers, he receives a second in-game item also exclusive to that server. The second item could be an inventory clicky that gives Potion of Adventure buff on a 20-hour timer or something like that. I myself have Noble DeJorn's lamp that came from the 07 fanfare that has a chance to give this effect. If that's overpowered, something else could be used or the timer increased. This is just one way to approach the new player dilemma. I don't claim that it's perfect or even the best solution. This is just my long-winded way of saying we don't have to dumb down the game or get rid of the low and medium level game. I'm Dexar, this is my rant. Now get off my lawn.
So Mac, now that you've had a little time to reacclimate to the game, I thought I'd hit you with a little interview to see what you think of all the changes that have occurred during your EQ hiatus.
Well, we can do that. It's kind of interesting to be back. I get a little nostalgic in some of the old areas I was in as I'm re-leveling up some or a tune. I'm trying not to get as ADD as I usually am and make one of every class.
Well, you left the game in 2007, just before Secrets of Fëanor launched. You were essentially gone for 6 years. What games were you playing when you left?
Jiminy. As I mentioned, I'm a little ADD. I play too many things. I messed around a little bit with Star Trek Online. Not super thrilled with it. I mean, it was kind of cool in the beginning, and then just kind of. City Heroes. Again, another one that's kind of defunct now. I World of Warcraft. I played Rift. Rift, when it first came out, looked like it was going to be really cool with the character creation concept, and then it just became a face roll type game. It just didn't hold any interest, and that's one of the things that helped me or helped you convince me to come back to the game. was because EverQuest does create a little bit of a challenge. It isn't something you just come in and face roll from one area to another.
Yeah. Well, in the time that you were gone, SOE launched 6 expansions, all but one of which raised the level cap. And when you quit, you had max level characters with a decent amount of AAs for the time, but the level cap was still 75. It's 100 now, and the top end players have AAs in excess of 10,000. Are you concerned at all with catching up?
When I first came back, that was one of my biggest concerns, especially because I planned to start over from the beginning to make sure I could handle all the content. And I just remember how long the grind was for AAs back in the day. But as we've been leveling, testing things out, the AAs are actually they come a lot quicker now than they used to. So leveling, I don't think is going to be a major issue. And the AAs, at least through the first up to the first 4,000 or so, shouldn't be an issue. So no, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Awesome. Well, as you mentioned, of course, you've got that adjusted AA curve. You got a bonus to AAs until you reach 4,000 AAs, and it's 10 times the regular rate when you first start out, and then it gradually comes back down to the normal rate at 4,000. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a boon for somebody like you that comes back. I'm sure you remember spending a lot of time trying to earn enough AAs to get that key ability, you know.
Well, that was one of my biggest concerns going back is it took me so long to get to max level back in the day, and to get AAs and I was still working on some at that time, and I just was concerned it was going to take me a long time to be useful for a group. But again, that's looking like it's not going to be the case. So
no,
the one
imagine so.
Bonus, Sony.
Right. One of the biggest changes has to be mercenaries. In your opinion, what do they add to the game, both positive and negative?
Well, positive. One of the reasons I left the game originally was I couldn't find groups or even someone to duel with later at night. At the time for the guild we were in, while I did play a mage, I also had a cleric, and I was the main healer in the guild for most of the raiding content, or the big group content we did. But late at night when I would come on, I would sit for hours and hours and try to find a group, and I just got tired of not being able to group. The mercenary aspect gives me it would give a player like me when I left, would have given me an option of being able to go out and do something. Because I did have solo classes that I could go out and play solo content with, but it didn't help me level or get experience with the class that I wanted to level with. That's normally not as solo capable. So the mercenaries, I think, do add some to that. The negative aspect, which I think was mentioned by somebody who commented on our original broadcast, was that some people are replacing live bodies with mercs, and not necessarily sure that'll help keep the player base. And I wouldn't want to replace a decent player with a merc. But there are times when you're in a group, you cannot find the perfect class or a class that's going to complement your group. You invite somebody in, the guy turns out to be a real chucklehead, and the mercenary gives you the ability to remove that person and put in something that actually seems to think a little better.
That completely makes sense. Like, for instance, if you invited a cleric to your group and they had the habit of replacing their complete heal spell with their gate spell, and you got the complete heal message, and then all of a sudden they had gated away. I don't know if you've known anybody who's made that mistake before, but you could maybe replace that chucklehead if you needed to.
As I recall, that one time we were finishing up for the evening and got aggro. I was getting ready to gate out.
Yeah. Well, the best part about it was the tank asked me where the hell the cleric went, and I love the fact that on Ventrilo I was able to tell him that he pissed you off. and that you just left.
It worked,
So I told him he needed to hold aggro better if he wanted to keep a cleric. It was a lot of fun to have him. If he wasn't a guildie, I don't think I would have tortured him like that. But okay, who am I kidding? I would have tortured him even worse if he wasn't a guildie. But
I learned from the Quan.
Yeah. In March of last year, EverQuest went free to play. Much like this podcast, completely free to play. The decision was met with a fair amount of criticism and controversy. As someone who returned and played a silver account initially, can you tell us what you think about free to play? And when I say free to play, I mean both truly free to play and silver, because they're really kind of one of the same for the most part. And what, in your opinion, can be done, if anything, to improve upon it, or does it need improvement?
Well, the free-to-play is nice. It allows people to return to the game that may not have had any interest in returning. When I left originally, I had no intent to ever come back. The free-to-play did give me an outlet to be able to come. Hey, let me go see if it's changed, see if anything is better. As we found out, there are some things in the game now that I like that are probably going to keep me around for a while longer. I really am enjoying myself. Yeah, I really enjoy the game. Right. Going completely free to play, though, I mean, that's not economically possible for a game producer. I don't think, not without selling a bunch of stuff out of it, with using EQ cache and stuff.
A lot of the complaints were around they went free to play, but and having a subscription, but then you've got the real money transactions, which we'll deal with later in the interview. I've got it on my list of questions to ask you, but that was a lot of the complaint there, was in how it was implemented. But I don't really see it as that bad, as long as you see it for what it is. It's to give you, the first taste is free kind of thing.
Right. They'll be peddling it on school corners here.
You'd be selling Evercrack sooner or later. I make no secret of the fact that I believe Defiant Gear has done more to harm the low-level game than anything else, but I understand that my view is a minority one. What do you think about Defiant Gear?
I agree. Some of the aspects of having Defiant Gear, having the lower-level characters being able to get gear that makes them more powerful, because they're forced to solo a lot in the lower-level areas. I don't think that's necessarily always a bad thing. However, having Defiant Gear in the game kind of ruins the reason for having the low-level game. Some of the quests that are in the game are completely useless. So when you're trying to level up, why spend hours trying to complete a quest to get a piece of crap gear where there's something available in the bazaar that you can purchase using the same amount of time farming plat? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay. All right. Well, I kind of agree that it does have its uses. I'm not completely anti-Defiant Gear. I see the point of it. It's become a necessary evil because I think of how the game is set up right now. But I believe that we're basically curing the symptom instead of the disease. We have to improve the low-level game and not put a Band-Aid on it, which is what Defiant Gear really kind of is, I think.
Right, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm never the one to swing the Nerf bat, and I would hate to see them remove something content that's already been added to the game. But I do see that, like I said, it does completely negate some of the earlier quests or gear that's available from earlier quests.
A lot of cosmetic changes went into effect in the last 6 years. And you might have noticed this. House of Thule expansion brought in player housing. In addition to that, we have new guild halls, Heroes Forge armor, and various other appearance-altering augments. Many of these things are are acquired through real money transactions. What's your opinion on the so-called fluff items and the introduction of the station cash store?
Well, let's go through the guild hall, the fluff items. Having a bigger guild hall, I can see sometime if you're in a large guild, want to be able to pull everyone into an area and discuss something. If you're not going to be using guild chat to do that, I can see the use for it. Player housing, except for the additional storage, I'm not big into the fluff items. I'm not a big Project Runway fan. I don't care if the gear looks cool as long as it does what it's supposed to do, protect me or chop through the bad guys.
You don't want to look fabulous.
Fabulous.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, not that there's anything wrong with that.
That's right. Having interesting gear, having interesting looking gear, it's cool. Even in the other games I've played, there are guys that in World of Warcraft, you got the transmog where you can make gear look like a different piece of gear.
Okay.
I don't care, as long as I can function in the group and do what I'm supposed to do. Now, and again, I may be a minority in that group. Other people may. That may be the end thing. They want to have their characters looking perfect, and I do know that there are players. I've seen Felicia Day commented on a show when they were doing they were showing Firefall, and her and Will Wheaton were commenting about the fact that she liked to be able to make her character up. So I can understand there are players out there that like that aspect, but for me, I don't care.
Yeah. It makes sense. It really makes sense. So
the other part of that question about the station cache, again, I probably going to be cheap and not spend a lot of money buying station cache. It just, if I can't get it in the game,
every month. You get 500 station cache every month as a gold subscriber, so you can just save it up and use it for what you want. I actually did that when I did my server transfer for some of my tunes that I did recently. I had a bunch of station cache that I hadn't used, and I spent it on transfers. But yeah, that's
yeah, and I could see using something that I'm earning anyways in the game, but I'm not going to spend extra cash to get station cash for other things. If I have it given to me, yeah, I'll use it, but I'm probably not going to use extra. Just like buying gold and plat selling and things like that. Not going to do it. If I can't earn it in the game myself, there's just no reason to do it.
A final note on this question that I just asked you. This is EverQuest, so I really think that there really aren't a lot of people that are playing EverQuest for the graphics. If you're playing EverQuest for the graphics, you haven't seen some of the other games that are out there. So not really EverQuest's strongest suit, nor do I think it should be. We're just talking about things that add a purely cosmetic aspect to the game. And Sony also added something called Player Studio to a lot of its games, including EverQuest. What this does is it allows artistic players that are skilled in 3D modeling software to make some pretty cool-looking items that are sold for station cash. And the creators receive some of the profits from that. What's your take on that?
Actually, I think it's a good idea. As I said earlier, I don't care about the fluff. I'm not really concerned about the looks of the items, but it does, for the players that do like that sort of thing, first of all, it gives a wider base of artistic talent than just the development team. Players that have a great artistic ability may have some ideas that wouldn't have been tossed around in the boardroom from the artist working for the game. And I think if you make something neat, then it adds to the game. I don't have a problem with them making a profit from the items being sold for station cash.
And there are some developers, and I believe the producer as well, I'm not sure if it was him, had commented, I think Smed said it himself, that some of the things that these players have come out with in Player Studio are just blowing their minds. They're far above some of the things that they created in-house. and they're not just giving lip service to these artists that are doing this, because I've looked at it, and I, like a lot of people, look at those things and say, wow, I'd like to see things, come out this way from an artistic standpoint from the beginning when the expansions launch and so forth. But they're really doing a good job with it. I was actually I'm not really great with 3D modeling software. I have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of ability there, but not a ton. And I also have a little bit of artistic ability, again, not a ton. I was thinking about doing a few of these projects myself until I saw some of the things that came out, and I thought, yeah, I'd be like a Little League baseball player trying to compete against the Yankees. It's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. So
I have an issue making just stick figures, so I would have no ability at all in that. And not, I mean, I know this podcast is completely about EverQuest, but I think that with EverQuest Next, I think that's one of the things that they're talking about that's going to be nice, adding the ability of player-made items or, to be added to the content. So anyways.
Well, just for your own information, mentioning EverQuest Next is completely forbidden. And just like you have forbidden me to do any more Shatner impressions, you're not allowed to bring up EverQuest Next. I will replace your ass with a mercenary in the next episode. I'm not kidding about that. No. There have been many significant changes to the UI. They added a loot all button, extended target window, an aggro meter. You've got the ability now to merge two groups. It's just to name a few things. Recently, clickable quest text even showed up for some of the old quests. Which UI changes have impacted you the most, and why?
Well, I mean, the loot all button, if you're killing or mass killing, makes it a lot easier than point click. You pretty much tear your finger out trying to loot everything. I think that's a great idea. Just recently, we did the merge group items, merge group utility, which was not available before. I mean, just click on the player and add them to your group. Right. Or not player, but group of players, and add them to your group. Which before you'd have to have, one group would have to decide who was going to disband to come in and join the other group. I like that. The extended target window, plus and minuses. I like knowing what's targeted me. Fantastic idea. On the other hand, if I'm a lobby running through a lobby zone or a zone that's probably a little higher than my level, it can be disheartening knowing how many things are chasing your buttocks.
Well, the good news is when you're low level, your max extended targets are 5. You can't see all 10 that are chasing you. Did you have anything else on the Did you have anything else on the UI changes that you'd like to cover before I go to the next thing?
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Okay. Changes were also.
Wait. Oh. I'm sorry. We were talking about the new UI being able to click from bags. That's another thing.
Right. Yeah.
Or was that going to be another question?
Yeah, that was my next question. Actually, I was going to go into that. I'd mentioned the clickable text. You might be thinking of the clickable quest text that you got a chance to play around with. That I did mention that, and I think you like to use that.
Oh, it's nice. I do type relatively fast. I'm really well known for making horrendous typos, and sitting in front of the quest giver, typing the same thing over and over again, and realizing you've just misspelled it 10 times. Yeah. Why won't he give me the quest? It's frustrating. Being able to click it, awesome. I don't like a game that allows you to face roll through it. I think that's actually a useful function. It cuts down on a lot of my frustration.
Yeah, well, it's like the old joke when you get one of the old school quests and you're before they actually put the keyword in parentheses back in the day. I will accept the mission I'm accepting the mission. What about mission? Oh, you'd like to go on the mission? You'd have to say exactly the right phrase to key it off, which was always interesting. You mentioned about bags. You kind of jumped the gun on me a little bit. Changes were recently made to storage and hotbar systems. We received more inventory in bank slots as well as bigger bags. The number of the hotbars was increased to 10. And each hotbar now you can have 10 buttons on it, or 12 buttons on it. Sorry, it used to be 10. Also, bags and hotbars were made resizable. How significant do you think those changes are?
For being able to click items from within bags, super significant. It's a lot easier on the fly than have to be able to drag something out, open your inventory, drag something out of a bag, put it into a slot, click it, and drag it back. That one right there, awesome. Bigger, more bank space. For the people, God love them, who like to trade skill, allows them to have more content within the bank space. Because I remember when I used to try to trade skill, I would end up filling up my bank with all this stuff required to make every combine.
Yeah.
One of the things that could be changed, trades. Yeah, trade skilling could be made just a wee bit easier. I know there's mechanics in the game now that make it easy that make it easier to level it up. It's just Jamie.
Now, I know you're one of those players that likes a complete spell book. How nice was it to all of a sudden have most of your spells available in POK where you can just go buy them?
Oh my God, it's awesome. Having that available there, or having spell components available there. I remember back old game, if you were an enchanter, the only way you could have a pet was with those silver or the tiny daggers, and you'd either have to run to Freeport or take the boat to Eridan if you were not over on that other side of the world to get them. At least on the good races, I'm not 100% sure where they were for the evil races.
Yeah, it was. I think they were in Nariak, but I'm not sure. They might not have been. Now, you've played other MMOs that have auction house and mail system that are far superior to EverQuest. Recently, EverQuest added offline trading and the ability to send items through the mail system. Do these changes go far enough, or is there a little bit of room for improvement?
Well, I mean, it's a lot better than it was back in the days. Back in the day, having the ability to send things or mail systems, it could be a little less clunky than it is. I do think it's a little clunkier than it needs to be. There are pluses and minuses for the auction house versus bazaar, auction house in some games versus the bazaar. Being able to post something and go do whatever you want in the game while your item's up for sale is awesome. You don't have to have a tune sitting there minding the store. The advantage of having a tune up in the bazaar, even a mule, is occasionally you'll have the player that's sitting there watching the screen, and sometimes you can negotiate for items that they've got up for sale that it's kind of available in the other game. Well, it is available through, you can bid on items in certain other games. But sometimes if you're looking for something that's really rare, instead of trying to buy it through a bazaar auction house system, you can actually contact the person and say, look, I'm looking for mass quantities of this item. If you can provide me with X amount, I'll be more than happy to spend this much on that amount. Sometimes you can, for larger quantities, would be able to make a negotiation which isn't available in the offline type trading thing.
No, that makes sense, and I actually hadn't thought of that. I saw, for instance, World of Warcraft. I'm familiar with their auction house setup, which I actually think that their auction house is great. You won't catch me heaping a whole bunch of praise on World of Warcraft in general, because There are a lot of things that I really don't like about it, including the fact that I think it's way too simple. However, the auction house, I think they did that right. At least back when I tried out the game, I thought they did a wonderful job with it. But you're right. When I played World of Warcraft and I put something up for sale, which I did quite often, there wasn't really a whole lot of negotiating because I would put it up for sale. I would list my things for sale with an alt. That's just the way that I did it. And then I would log out and play my main on the same account and, check back later. And there's a little bit that's lost there where you don't get the ability to negotiate, and there's a loss of opportunity there that you don't even realize you've lost unless you take a closer look, like what you said. So that was some nice insight there. Finally, what advice as a returning player would you offer to SOE to bring others such as yourself back to the game? What things could they do that they're not doing, and how is it flawed right now if it is flawed?
I think, I have seen pretty much nothing out there I know they've got to have some sort of media out there just talking about the free-to-play, but I think it would be a big incentive to get some people back there. Me coming back, the only reason I came back was word of mouth through you. We have another old guild member that has come back and is recently playing again that was not aware of the free-to-play, and now he's actually purchased the next expansion and will be playing more EverQuest. So they need to get the word out that there is actually free to play. It'll bring people back in. It'll interest some. Some people will come back for nostalgia. Some people who've never played it before may come in and realize that this is a little more challenging than some of the other MMOs out there. Let's face it. My grandson's been playing World of Warcraft. Has had his own account since he was 3, and he's been playing around with the tunes longer than that. And right now he's now in first grade and able to play the game, read the content. He knows exactly what to do. I want a game that's a little more challenging than that. I don't want to be playing shoots and ladders while I'm on the computer. Yeah. And that's where a lot of these MMOs are feeling like is they're just not challenging.
Are you trying to say that you want to be sure that your guild leader isn't 6? Is that what you're trying to say? Because it sounds like that's what you're trying to say. Doesn't your grandson have his own guild?
He did it one time. Apparently, when he was younger, he was in a guild, and I guess the guild decided to dissolve, and they just handed guild leader over to him, and he apparently just clicked the accept button. This was before he was able to read, and we looked over and, how did you become guild leader of a guild? It was kind of funny, but.
Well, to be fair, we did try to introduce him to a little bit of free to play on EverQuest, and we joke about this, but your grandson, he's a smart cookie, so he's not exactly in the special class there or anything. So yeah, true, he mastered World of Warcraft, but he's doing okay on free to play for EverQuest. He's having a little bit of fun. But
and he's able to read and do some of the things. He does occasionally run into areas where he probably shouldn't run into. He's that one player you would go, "What are you doing?"
Don't we all? Listen, thanks for the great interview, Mac. I have to say that while putting these questions together, I was surprised at all the changes in the last 6 years to the game. It's amazing when you go back and you look and you're preparing for an interview like this and you see, in 6 years, all of these different features were added, major changes in the game, and what a culture shock for somebody coming back after they've been gone for a while. And there are people that have been gone a lot longer than you have. And, that's what we're here for. If one of the things we're here for anyway, people coming back, we can maybe commensurate with a little bit and help them get back into the swing of things. And again, thank you very much for the interview.
No problem. And if you've been gone a really long time, no more spell books to stare at while you're medding.
Yeah.
Be a real long time.
If it's been that long, you're probably not even going to remember the game.
Well, that'll do it for this week. And don't forget to leave us a comment, tweet, or email, and let us know how we're doing.
We also would like to hear from you about topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Until next week, I'm Dexar.
And I'm MacHammer. And please remember to spay or neuter your warder.